Good evening and welcome to the virtual public meeting regarding the City of Tampa's 30th Street Complete Streets Sidewalk and Safety Improvements Project. This project runs along 30th Street from Yukon Street to Fowler Avenue in Tampa, Florida. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce the team responsible for the Complete Streets Sidewalk and Safety Improvement Project. With the City of Tampa, we have Calvin Hardy, Capital Projects Manager, Nina Mabilo, Project Manager, and with the design team with Cardno, we have Jeremy Runkle, Design Project Manager, Jason Yam, Roadway Engineer, Ricky Perica, Landscape Architect, and Ely Araj, Drainage Engineer, and I'm Olivia Smith. We will now give a brief orientation on how to participate in this meeting during the question and answer portion, which will take place immediately following the project overview. You may submit questions and comments during the presentation and throughout the meeting. To submit a question, click on the Q&A icon in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Then, type your question into the My Questions anytime during the meeting. We welcome all questions and comments regarding this project. If you have not already, please register for the event by visiting the 30th Street Project website and click on Registration. Click Next to go to Attendee Information. Fill in your information and click Submit. Or type your name, email, and if you live or work on the corridor in the chat bar. The purpose of this meeting is to introduce the design concepts to the community, update you on the project schedule, and provide an opportunity for questions and comments. This meeting is being held in accordance with city, state, and federal regulations, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Public participation is encouraged and solicited without regard to race, color, religion, sex, age, national origin, disability, or family status. Persons wishing to express their concerns about Title VI may do so by contacting the City of Tampa's Office of Human Rights at the information listed on the screen. 30th Street is considered a complete street. Complete streets are designed so all modes of transportation can share the road safely. They promote safety, quality of life, and economic development while aligning with Mayor Castor's vision for transforming Tampa's tomorrow. This project complies with a multi-phased walk-bike plan, which aims to identify opportunities to enhance bicycle and pedestrian mobility throughout the city and provide for cross-city, north-south, and east-west connections, specifically through bicycle facilities. This project will enhance safety. It includes upgrades for vehicles, bicyclists, and pedestrians, including wider sidewalks, new pedestrian intersection crossings, new landscaping, ADA compliant features, and connectivity for transit stops. The project is divided into two segments on 30th Street. Segment 1 is from Yukon Street to Bush Boulevard, and Segment 2 runs between Bush Boulevard and Fowler Avenue. They are divided into segments to show the various improvements in each section. If you're just now joining us, this presentation will be posted on the 30th Street Project website following this meeting. In Segment 1, from Yukon Street to Bush Boulevard, the existing roadway needs repair. Today, there are 14-foot travel lanes, worn-out pavement, no bicycle facilities, damaged sidewalks, and areas that do not drain well after a storm. To improve safety, Segment 1 will include reducing the travel lanes, repaving the roadway, widening the sidewalks, adding share the road markings for bicycles, and adding green infrastructure to improve water quality and drainage. This illustration provides a glimpse of what the area looks like today and what improvements are proposed for this segment. The before illustration shows narrow sidewalks, no bike accommodations, and the poor pavement conditions. The after shows improvements such as wider sidewalks, the repaved roadway, and bike markings. Taking a closer look, the rendering shows what the segment 1 would look like, including roadway paving, sidewalks, and bicycle pavement markings. In summary, segment 1 improvement considerations include repaving the roadway, installing green infrastructure such as green gutters, widening the sidewalk, adding bicycle pavement markings, upgrading transit stops with bus shelter pads, and installing a mini roundabout at Yukon Street, which would fit within the existing right-of-way. The mini roundabout could be constructed as part of a separate contract at a later date. Segment 2, 30th Street, from Bush Boulevard to Fowler Avenue, has poor pavement conditions, various lane sizes, and a two-way left turn down the center of the roadway. Sidewalk is in need of repair, and there are no existing bike lanes. To improve safety, Segment 2 will include reconfiguring the roadway to accommodate 5-foot bicycle lanes, constructing a new trail on the west side of the roadway, and providing wider sidewalks on the east side. The roadway pavement will be resurfaced to provide for a smoother ride. This illustration shows what the area looks like today and what improvements are proposed for Segment 2. The before illustration shows narrow sidewalks, no bike accommodations, and the worn pavement. The after shows improvements such as wider sidewalks, a repaved roadway with a raised median, designated bike lanes, and a separated trail for both bicyclists and pedestrians. Taking a closer look, the rendering shows what the Segment 2 would look like, including roadway paving, sidewalks, bicycle pavement markings, and the new trail along the west side of the roadway. To improve pedestrian safety, refuge islands will be added along the entire corridor. The islands will provide enhanced visibility at safe, designated locations to cross 30th Street. The raised pedestrian refuge islands are proposed in 6 locations along the corridor: at 97th Avenue, Poinsettia Avenue, Strauss Way, 109th Avenue, Yingling Drive, and Holiday Inn. Rectangular rapid flashing beacons enhance pedestrian and bicycle safety. RRFBs are a warning device for drivers and include flashing lights. The flashing yellow lights, when activated, signal to drivers and bicyclists using the roadway to yield to those in the crosswalk before proceeding. However, pedestrians need to remain aware and watch for approaching traffic even if the RRFB has been activated. A new recreational trail is being considered on the west side of 30th Street and will provide a safe alternative for bicyclists and pedestrians to remain separated from the roadway. One environmentally friendly option for the trail is permeable pavement, which improves drainage and water quality. This pavement has a highly porous and flexible surface and is made of recycled materials. A roundabout at Bougainvillea provides for safer, more efficient intersection. Roundabouts are a proven traffic calming countermeasure that help reduce the frequency of severe and fatal accidents when compared to conventional stop-controlled or signalized intersections. Due to right-of-way acquisition and potential schedule delays, this roundabout may be designed and constructed as a subsequent phase. Studies show that lowering the speed limit from 45 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour can result in reduced fatalities and serious injuries. The speed limit between Bush Boulevard and Fowler Avenue could be reduced from 45 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour. The city is evaluating landscaping features along 30th Street and in medians that would provide shade and aesthetics to the project. The City of Tampa promotes green infrastructure that improves water quality and is beneficial to the environment. This project has several types of green infrastructure being considered. For instance, along Segment 1, there are the use of green gutters to treat water and reduce ponding along the roadway. Preliminary engineering analysis and design is currently underway. The design phase ends November 2021. Construction is scheduled to begin on November 2021, ending in June 2023. To share your comments and ensure they will be included in the public record, please contact Nina Mabilo before September 10, 2020 at 30th Street Project at tampagov.net. At this time, I'll turn the presentation over to Jeremy Runkle, Design Project Manager.
Thank you, Olivia. So we will go ahead and start the questions and answer portion of the meeting. As a reminder, to submit a question, click on the Q&A icon at the top right corner of the screen. Then simply type your question under My Questions box at any time during the discussion. We will attempt to answer as many questions as possible. Any questions we do not address at this time will be answered and posted to the website, the project website, within 2 weeks. A recording of this public meeting will also be made available on the project website. So we welcome all questions and comments regarding the project. At this time, we haven't received any questions yet, so I encourage you to think about what you'd like to ask or post any concerns in the current design, and you can post those to the Q&A session. So we'll be on standby awaiting your questions to address. Thank you. So we did receive a email. I will go ahead and try to restate what the email read. Excuse me. My main basic question that I hope will be covered in the presentation is, what is resilient drainage infrastructure? My dog and I walk twice a day on the sidewalk along the west side of 30th Street between Annie and Linebaugh. I'm writing to share my thoughts and observations. I'm excited about this project and appreciate the opportunity to contribute ideas. I will be candid and direct, but I am aware of my lack of expertise in urban planning. I will be interested in learning about my neighbors' preferences and the rationale for the eventual design decisions. The design and condition of the stretch of sidewalk where we walk, the west side of 30th Street, is satisfactory to me. Considering cost and environmental impact, I would recommend leaving the sidewalk in place. In some areas, the drop off to the ditch beside the sidewalk, however, is dangerously steep. I'm interested in what is meant by trails as opposed to sidewalks in the project description. The times of day my dog and I, are able to walk is limited by ambient temperature, sun exposure, and temperature of the sidewalk. For these reasons, and also for safety from vehicles, I have been wishing there were trees to shade us and curious why they are absent. I noticed there is some damage to the sidewalk south of Annie by the police station from oaks planted very close to the sidewalk. I would never walk on the sidewalk along the east side of 30th Street because it is so close to vehicle lanes. I know that the wide ditch along the west in our segment provides only limited protection. On multiple occasions, I have seen vehicles lose control, and I am sure they could easily reach the sidewalk. Bicyclists regularly use the sidewalk, and when they encounter pedestrians, generally attempt to pass by on the sidewalk instead of steering onto the grass or ever dismounting, even now during the pandemic. If I were a bicyclist, I would not be comfortable biking in traffic lanes, nor in conventional bike lanes adjacent to the traffic with no vehicle-proof barrier. I know that the presence of trees along a road generally causes drivers to maintain safer speeds, and we could really use that help here. The road is mostly rough, so resurfacing would be nice. I favor roundabouts. So I would expect the limiting use of what is now the center lane by installing intermittent landscape meetings might improve safety. Would there be enough room for trees there? I care for community cats and would prefer that if there is any landscaping other than the trees in the medians, it should be very low growing so that it does not invite animals to cross traffic, such as shrubs or a ground cover over 6 inches would be a dangerous hiding place. I'm a member of the Suncoast chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society, and we would be thrilled to assist with design and species selection for any or all landscaping related parts of this project. As the design progresses and constraints such as size of planting areas, location, distance from utilities, and other features, etc., become known. Many of the members are very knowledgeable, and their input could help make the results of this project an especially valuable, unique local asset. From the FAQ at fnps.org, why grow native plants? There are good reasons to grow native plants. Planted in lieu of, so this obviously is a multi-part question. It's a very good question because it brings up a lot of components about the project. So first, I'm going to address the first one and ask Ely to, if I can direct it to you, what is resilient drainage infrastructure, Ely, if you don't mind?
To put it simply, resilient drainage infrastructure is infrastructure and drainage that kind of mimics what happens in nature. The tenets of low impact development and green infrastructure really is based on the fundamental of trying to keep runoff on site rather than trying to put it in a central drainage system and then send it away to get treated or to be attenuated. The classical way to deal with drainage, as we used to call it, is to put an inlet in place on a road, collect the runoff from the road in that inlet, put it in a pipe. 2-3 inlets later and manholes later, we end up in a drainage pond, maybe a mile or so away, where all the treatment and attenuation happens before we discharge into a water body. With green or low impact development type of infrastructure, we try to minimize how much of this pipes, inlets, and concrete that we're using, and we try to keep most of that runoff on site. So in this case, we are recommending the use of green gutters. We're recommending the maximizing the use of the swales on site that are on the side of the road to actually keep the runoff, drain it, let it infiltrate on the ground, and not have to take it down for treatment and then discharge to a water body. So in a nutshell, this is what we mean by green infrastructure. We minimize by that expenses, we minimize the use of pipes, we minimize the use of real estate, and at the same time, we are maximizing the use of greenery and reducing the use of impervious area by substituting with green area, which is what we're doing in this project as well.
Thank you, Ely. The next part of the question, I believe, was referring to some of the ADA deficiencies along the west sidewalk, and specifically, there was a concern about ditch drop-offs. Now, that's something that we are looking at. Typically, with these projects, we do an ADA survey and inventory all ADA deficiencies, and drop-offs is one of those. Some of the countermeasures to a drop-off would be handrail. However, it wouldn't be for the entire length of the project, only specifically located at the locations where that drop-off exists. And let me, you have to forgive me, it was a well thought out email with a lot of components. Regarding bicyclists on the sidewalk, let me see if I can pull up our typical section, and you can see one of the biggest features of this project is actually we are reconfiguring the striping along the roadway pavement to provide 5-foot bike lanes and actually have a on-road bike facility to help channelize some of that bicycle traffic onto 30th Street. We are also looking at widening the sidewalk on the east side to help provide a better, a wider sidewalk for pedestrians, walking in each direction to pass easier. And let me see, hopefully that addressed the bicycle concern. I know, Ricky, there was some mention of some of the options for possible shading and landscaping. Maybe you can address that.
Sure, thank you, Jeremy. We have a plant palette proposed for both segments based on the available routing volume that we anticipate and canopy conflicts with existing or proposed infrastructure. Almost all the trees proposed are native species and will be specified appropriately based on site constraints. Many shrubs and ground covers are currently native and many are drought tolerant as well to promote more wildlife use with pollinators, but also reduce maintenance requirements for the city and just provide a more aesthetic, natural Florida-friendly aesthetic overall. And I would look forward to coordinating with the Native Plant Society and getting their input on the palette and the execution. Thank you.
Thanks, Ricky. We have some additional questions that I'll now address. Let's see, the next question comes from Anonymous. What City of Tampa funds are being used for this project? I'm going to ask either Nina or Cal to consider answering this one.
I can answer. So we have funding from a variety of sources. Right now, we're in concept development and preliminary engineering, which means that we're basically looking at a few different options. I saw some questions about the roundabout as well, so this might address that. Basically, what we're trying to get out of this is we're going to the public and we wanted to see what comments and what the public thinks of the project, and then determine what items to actually place into the project. Generally, get comments and let the public kind of guide the process. The funding that we have right now is red light running camera monies and multimodal fees. However, with the price tag that we have currently, if we were to do everything all at once, we probably have to pull funding from other programs as well, like gas, or other funding sources like gas tax and some other ones. Right now, the idea would be to, with the roundabouts, one of the options that we have is kind of phasing this and possibly doing the corridor project without the roundabouts, and then, or without the roundabout, especially at Bougainvillea, because it does require some right of way, and then come back later as a phase 2, but design it all at once. So that's kind of why we're out here meeting with stakeholders to see what they want, to see what their biggest concerns are on the corridor, so we can get you a project that is good for the community and fits within the surrounding context of the road.
Thank you, Cal. So I think in Cal's response, he did answer. We had a second question about the roundabouts, but I believe that was answered. We have Tazia asks, hello and thank you. I would like to prevent the expense, noise, and carbon footprint of frequent mowing required to maintain turf grass. Also, over time, it degrades to a mix of sand spurs and invasive weeds, like we have now along these sidewalks. Can we minimize the use of turf grass and use low-growing Florida native turf grass substitutes?
I'll take that, Jeremy. Short answer, yes. We currently have low-growing ground covers, such as sunshine mimosa and frog fruit, included currently in the plant palette, and we can continue to propose those types of ground covers where grass is unsuitable. We also have wildflowers, rudbeckia, gaillardia that are considered, and anyhow, so we'll have lots of native and pollinator plants along the corridor where they are suitable.
Thank you, Rick. So we encourage you to keep submitting these great questions. We're here to address any concerns or questions you may have on the project. So definitely keep them coming right now. I think we've addressed all to this point in the portion of the Q&A, and we'll just be here to answer more of those as they come in. Thank you. So I think we got another question regarding bicyclists from Jim. Jim asks, why not make the west sidewalk bicycle route large enough to take bicycles completely off the street? Well, Jim, bicycles are allowed on-road by state statute. Those uncomfortable on-road can actually use the multi-use path on the west side. So that actually provides an alternative for separated bicycle and pedestrian facilities.
I'll add to that as well. So with the road, the width of the roadway right now, we have some really wide lanes. So ideally, what we strive for within the city is to actually get separated bike lanes. We want to make lanes that are safe for all type of users. Like you have different types of bikers. They have like charts and actually categories of family people with family on a bike, and then like the commuter bikes, and then the road bikers and stuff like that. But so we strive to get separated facilities. Here we do have a separated facility that will work for people who want more of a low stress biking experience. The ones on the roadway, we're carving out space for them to use it. But I want to stress that the on-street bike lanes are kind of double function. We will have conflict markings and stuff like that so that we can make them safe, but they also serve to narrow the lane widths. So we right now, instead of having 13, 14-foot lanes, we can narrow the lane widths and actually have an 11-foot lane and a 10-foot lane. Narrow lanes, even ones that are just paint, actually slow down traffic quite a bit. So the on-lane or the on-road markings are kind of serve two purposes: to provide an alternative for people who feel comfortable using them, and then to slow down traffic and use as a traffic calming.
Thank you, Cal. And I might add too, with the on-road bicycle lane, that also creates more separation from the sidewalk. So sometimes pedestrian comfort increases as well from having the offset from the travel lane. So we'll keep an eye out for more questions as they come in. So it looks like we did get one, another one from Anonymous. Will similar safety improvements be considered for Yukon Street? Now let me pull up, now segment 1, we do have some improvements, as you can see here. 30th Street connecting the segment from Yukon Street to Bush Boulevard. The safety features are a little different. The roadway pavement will be resurfaced, but we are looking at narrower travel lanes to help with traffic calming. Although the speed limit there is 30 miles per hour, we would be looking at considering wider sidewalks. And for this route, since the speed limit is under 35 miles per hour, it's a candidate for what we call share the road markings. That bicyclists, you've probably seen them in certain areas around the city. But basically, bicyclists can share the road on lower speed facilities, and it provides for an on-street bicycle facility. Another improvement to the Yukon Street intersection is a mini roundabout, and mini roundabouts are proven. I might ask Jason to talk a little bit about mini roundabouts and how they enhance safety.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, mini roundabouts function similar to the regular roundabouts, except they're a little more narrow and they can fit inside existing intersection right-of-ways. So basically, with your standard roundabouts, you have significant crash reductions. We're talking somewhere between 70 to 90% reductions in severe crashes. So, these are all going to be low speed. You're coming into this roundabout somewhere between 20 to 25 miles an hour. and you're traveling within the roundabout somewhere between 15 to 20. So you can imagine that any accidents that is going to be occurring at those low speeds will be fairly minor. So you no longer have those high speed vehicles traveling through the roundabout and then having those severe crashes. So it's a huge safety improvement for this intersection. And again, with the mini roundabouts, vehicles that are large and emergency vehicles, instead of traveling around the circle, because this is going to be a lot smaller of a circle, they'll be driving through the circle. So if you do have vehicles with a large trailer or your large delivery vehicles, they will be able to go through this roundabout, and all the normal vehicles, all your passenger vehicles will be traveling around the circle. So just to clarify.
I'd like to add just one more to that. So the planning document that we had that initially suggested this as a walk-bike route also suggests Yukon. We realize the significance of Yukon being that it's a connector all the way underneath the interstate to North Boulevard. As we're continuing chipping away at that plan, there's projects that we want to, or corridors that we want to elevate based off of that to make walking and biking safer. With Yukon itself, I can tell you that we have been talking and coordinating with other agencies with the opening underneath the interstate there with FDOT to see about adding some sidewalk connectivity there. There's a gap that exists for about a block or so. And then just looking at the whole corridor, because it's when you look at the map, the city has so many barriers with it, whether it be interstate or major highways or the river or the bays, whatever. Getting across those, when you have a road that provides a connection, you really want to enhance it. So Yukon is something that we have on our radar for sure.
Thank you, Cal. I guess I'll point out too, along segment one, another, if you drive from Bush toward Yukon Street, sometimes you might see after a heavy rainfall some standing water on the pavement. One of the improvements too, as Ely mentioned, the use or application of green gutters in this segment will actually help convey stormwater off the pavement into a roadside ditch. And it has kind of serves two purposes. The first purpose is, getting the water off the road, but not only that, it actually provides water quality treatment, which is helpful to the environment. So please keep the questions coming. These have been great questions so far. We really appreciate it. I pulled this slide up. I think one thing worth mentioning along the project too is we have some major stakeholders, Busch Gardens, Yingling, PepsiCo, Hart has facilities along the corridor, CSX has a railroad, so there's a lot of different modes of transportation and a lot of surrounding land uses that are both commercial and industrial. So we've actually been conducting stakeholder meetings with each of these entities to get their feedback and their input as far as future developments. And we are aware of some of the upgrades that are coming along the corridor and have our design kind of addressing some of their needs. So far, everything has been going really well, and they've been very supportive of the safety and sidewalk improvements along the corridor.
Yeah, the city also has a project on 46th Street that is going to construction soon. That's a walk bike project as well. So that was one that we came out to the neighborhood about a year ago and did a public presentation on. And it has a roundabout at Bougainvillea and a smaller roundabout, and it has a trail connection. But it's not as heavily traveled as 30th Street, but we are looking at that as well. The city is also looking at or preparing plans for McKinley Drive and 40th Street in order to narrow some of the lanes similar to what we did on Bayshore Boulevard and add some RRP crossings as well. So we're really focusing a lot of attention to the area and trying to make it safer because I mentioned highways being a barrier. We don't want our roadways being a barrier. We want them to work for people. So if we can make the pedestrian, make it work for pedestrians, that's you always strive to make it work for the most vulnerable person. So anyway, I just wanted to let y'all know if there's no more questions, just kind of what else we're doing in the area.
And Cal, I might, there was a question that came in from Jim. He asks, is anything planned for 22nd Street? This seems like a more central and more highly used road for bicyclists, and right now it's potentially deadly. So address that one.
Yeah, so 22nd Street is actually a surtax project. We had a project program from fiscal year 20 that was approved by the Independent Oversight Committee that approves agency plans for surtax. Surtax is the all for transportation. 22nd Street and 109th Avenue. We're doing complete streets on both of those streets within that neighborhood, as well as some neighborhood resurfacing for University North neighborhood and North Tampa neighborhood as well. Those were all approved with the agency plans. Now, right now, we don't have surtax money. It's been held up in a court case. But we feel that the 109th and 22nd Avenue, or 22nd Street and 109th Avenue, those projects are very important, and we wanted to start our development of concepts for that. So we are currently developing concepts, and if surtax were, it's held up in the Supreme Court case. I'm not sure if you're all aware of all this, but if the Supreme Court rules it or strikes it down, then that funding will go away, and we'll have to. If we have concepts, we can try to go after other funding. It will increase the timeline quite a bit. But the other thing, if the Supreme Court rules in favor of the All for Transportation Initiative, then that funding will start filling up, or all the funding that we collected so far is valid, and we can start moving on some of those projects. I don't know the timeline for a decision, but I think that the earliest would be sometime in September or October. After that, are those two projects. It's a complete street treatment for both 22nd and 109th, and they also have roundabouts as part of that too. The roundabouts are really safe. They really decrease accidents or crashes, I should say. They are the only method or means of an intersection control that's not really based off of compliance, meaning it's a physical measure that slows down traffic. On a red light or a stop sign, a driver can still run those. on a roundabout, you can't really run a roundabout. You have to go around, and there's a physical object there to make you comply. But I know some people feel they're confusing, and there's some a learning curve to them. But the reason why the city and engineers in general, it's not just the city, it's everywhere. Their safety record is so superb compared to other intersection types that we really look to increase them, or to look to see if a intersection can fit a roundabout. That's our preferred intersection treatment. They're safer, they're greener because you're not idling. They're on most roads that we can accept, like a one-lane roundabout, they're actually more efficient. So it's a win-win-win. And it's rare in traffic engineering that you get one of those where you don't really have to trade off that much. So, but yes, we are looking at 22nd Street as well.
Great, thanks, Cal. Tazia had another question. On the topic of stakeholders, are you also separately inviting feedback from Tampa Police Department and Tampa Fire Department? Well, the answer is yes, Tazia. We are actually coordinating with those agencies as well, especially when it comes to some of the roundabout improvements. You know, for design, we look at emergency vehicles to make sure that they can properly maneuver the roundabout. So we are coordinating with them to get, you know, any input that they may have that might be relevant to the design of the project, to just make sure we ensure a safe and operational roundabout at those locations of Yukon Street and Bougainvillea. And Jim also had another question on 30th. How would bus stops affect bicycle and sidewalk traffic? One of the big things, Jim, is, as you can see actually from this slide, we talked about the pedestrian refuge islands. You know, a lot of times the locations of these pedestrian refuge islands depend on what we call pedestrian generators and attractors. So a generator would be a bus stop as well as an attractor where, you know, people are getting on and off the bus. We want them to safely be able, first of all, to, you know, have a landing area that the bus stops at, and they can properly and safely get off the bus, and then they need somewhere to cross. So we have these, let me see if I have the slide right here, these 6 locations where basically they are near these pedestrian attractor and generators, and primarily the bus stops. So we're working closely with HART to understand what future plans HART has along the corridor, and we're working with them on their projected ridership that they anticipate. It could, you know, potentially lead to maybe a, you know, a certain consolidation of bus stops to a specific location where they would expect more riders to get on and get off the bus. So we're just trying to make sure that we have the proper sidewalk connections that are ADA compliant, as well as bicycle friendly, so that, you know, any of the biker peds that are going to be around the buses can access that properly and safely.
I'm not sure if this got mentioned, but the county, once you get north of Fowler, the county owns the right of way. It's what's that? Okay, yeah, excuse me, I always screw up Bush and Fowler. And I've lived here for probably 16 years now. But once you get north of Fowler, it does become a county road, and they are looking at adding a trail on one side of the road as well. I did want to mention that that was something that a question that we've gotten in the past is, okay, this is all fine and good. How are you connecting to the county system? And I know since this area is kind of right on the cusp of where the line is drawn, it's important that our roads communicate with FDOT roads, and county roads. So I did want to mention that there is a trail either in design or planned on the north side of Fowler as well. So this should connect pretty well to that.
Thank you, Cal. Well, we still have about a half an hour for questions, so we definitely encourage you to keep asking, and we'll keep trying to address them. So let me just take a second too to remind anybody who hasn't registered to go ahead and visit the 30th Street Project website and click on the registration so we can gather your attendee information. You basically just click next to go to attendee information and fill in the data forms there and just click submit, and that will give us awareness that you were at the meeting. And if you have any questions too, you can always submit those to our project email address, which I'll show here in a second. And basically we can address those. We'll take questions as far out as September 10th, and everything is going to be posted to the project website. So even if you have a question after this meeting tonight, you can always ask us, and we will address that in the near future and get them posted to the website for you. Well, this brings us to the conclusion of our public involvement meeting. I encourage anybody to visit the 30th Street website at the address shown on the screen. You can learn more about the project. You can view the virtual meeting materials that are going to be posted within 2 weeks, or you can ask questions up until September 10th. Another option, if you have your mobile device, you can take out your camera and scan the QR code here, and it will actually bring you to the project site. So at this time, thank you everybody for your attendance and all your great input. Have a great evening.